Hello and welcome to your $1,400 stimulus check and stimulus package update. So I wanted to cover all of the major obstacles that are between the average American, and getting another stimulus check, the $1,400 stimulus check, and another stimulus bill. Now, I just wanted to start off by saying, first off, the odds are better than ever that a third stimulus check will get passed. The odds are heavily in the favor of that happening, but this isn't to say there aren't obstacles in place, and I'm here to be the realistic picture guy. That's a terrible tagline, but you get what I mean. I'm here to be realistic, not clickbait you and say, the checks are going to get passed every single day. That way, when there is good news, it's actually good news and it's realistic. So let's go into the details as to what exactly is going on here and talk about the obstacles that are in place so we can kind of understand the system a little bit better. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the slim margins. Now, most people are aware of this, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but in the Senate, we're looking at an even 50-50 split between those who typically vote Democratic and those who typically vote Republican. And this is as slim as it gets, because with a 50-50 vote, the tiebreaker goes to the vice president, and the tiebreaker right now will go to a Democratic vice president. In the House, we also have really slim margins, which isn't as talked about, but Nancy Pelosi has a 5-vote margin in the House to get a bill passed, which is, of course, not a big margin, 5 people out of hundreds. Now, we will probably see a few Republican representatives vote for a stimulus bill, but of course, this is still a very slim margin. The next reason we may see a little hitch in negotiation, and I think this is actually the biggest reason on the entire list, is we kind of have a battle going on in the Senate. Now, House and Senate Democrats are not completely on the same page with the next stimulus bill, nor how to proceed. So Democratic Senate aides have actually been helping the House Ways and Means Committee, put together the next stimulus bill. But that's about as far as the working togetherness has gone here. And changes are expected in the stimulus bill once it reaches the Senate. So the House is going to put together a stimulus bill, very likely next week when they're back from recess. It'll likely be sent to the Senate before the end of February. However, then once it reaches the Senate, we're going to see some back office, closed door negotiations on a stimulus bill and changes to the stimulus bill, and then a vote on that bill without really much back and forth between the House and the Senate. And what happens if there are changes on this bill and then they vote on it and then approve it, the House has to then vote on that same bill again. And we're running into some timeline issues, both in just getting that vote done, because of course they need to understand the bill that they're voting on. And there may be significant changes that maybe they don't agree with, or certain people don't agree with these changes. So that could just kind of throw a wrench in the plans a little bit. Now, I don't want to be here and be a doomsayer either, or a naysayer, because like I said, the odds of a stimulus bill passing are better than ever, and still, frankly, very likely. Like, I would give it a 90% probability that we see this bill passed. But there are just certain things in the way. The next one is minimum wage. We've talked about this a lot on this channel, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but minimum wage is heavily debated on both sides. I mean, there's arguments on both sides, and frankly, opinions on both sides have fair arguments. So I'm not going to spend any time debating which is better or which I believe in, because honestly, there's good arguments on both sides. Now, another potential issue with the minimum wage plan is it might not even be possible through budget reconciliation. And that's because through budget reconciliation, you actually have to have a significant impact on the budget, which it's hard to say that minimum wage does that. And this might be another reason for there to be some debate on the bill and on budget reconciliation if certain people feel that this shouldn't be in a budget reconciliation bill. Now, Nancy Pelosi doesn't seem to be too worried about this, because she says if it isn't passed as part of the stimulus bill, it'll just get passed later on. So we'll see if that happens, but it's at least one point of contention as far as getting this bill passed. Next, we have secondary effects of budget reconciliation. Now, I talked about this just a little bit the other day, and I think it's fairly significant. It's a significant concern. Now, many Democrats actually aren't worried about this, and it hasn't ever been an issue in the past. However, this is a kind of a different situation than we've ever been in the past. Basically, what happens with budget reconciliation is you have to move numbers around a little bit. And in order to get funding for certain programs, other programs need cuts to their funding at a future date. So if we get the stimulus bill passed, they're essentially taking away funding from another program sometime like next January. And then later on this year, once there are votes on the budget, Democrats are banking that Republicans will help them fix the cut areas of funding later on. And this leaves Republicans two options. Either one, they use this just kind of as a bargaining chip to get some legislation passed that maybe they want to get passed, or two, they don't help out, because in order to get more funding for those programs, we need a 60-vote majority in the Senate. And if they don't help out, funding won't go to those programs, and it'll paint Democrats as the bad guys because they are in control of the Senate, in control of the House, and in control of the White House. So they'll just say, I guess they don't know how to manage things. I think it's a legitimate concern. It hasn't happened before, but it's something worth noting at least. Next, we have the fact that not all Democrats are on the same page. The total check size is still being debated. Who should receive the check is still being debated. You know, the income limits. We're probably going to see the income limits very similar to the first and second rounds, but it's still being debated across the same party. Also, state and local government funding is still being debated. More moderate Democrats have a ton of power, especially in the Senate, because there is literally no margin for anyone on the Democratic side to not vote for the bill and still get the thing passed. So there's a very thin line here. And finally, there's less than a month to make this thing happen before unemployment boosts expire. And this is, of course, concerning because there's many people relying on unemployment boosts. And we've seen delays in the past. It's just, you know, it's kind of like we've been hurt before. And, you know, as much as I want to, you know, like I said, 90% chance that this thing gets passed, but that 10% thing is what just makes me wonder, is there going to be some wrench that you know, gets thrown in the plan here before this 1 month deadline gets hit? Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but of course I need to paint a realistic picture as to what exactly is going on. So if you appreciate my efforts here, please consider liking the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I would just like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.